We've now done beverages. It is, of course, time for the infamous stupid tweets. Anybody got anything? Hood, I know you got some business cooking today in the stupid tweets department.
I think
Or
one of y'all are probably going to bring the other one
podcasts,
up. But
press conferences.
just to, I tried really hard. This was the first off season where I really tried to give the benefit of the doubt to like CFB Media, because it's been a long time since I've like subscribed or even give them the benefit of the doubt and listen to them or take heed to anything they got to say. So I tried again. Was recommended the Cover 3 podcast. So they had two parts where they kind of did predictions on the Big Ten. I didn't see the first part, but I saw the part where they did Washington predictions, and just a little some footnotes, some cliff notes. Bud Elliott mentioned us in like the bottom four as like arguably the worst team, the worst roster in the conference, and like lined us up with UCLA. So, and then when you engage with him, he mentioned that he hadn't really paid attention since the spring. So like it's just like, but what are you doing? So I felt like that was stupid for sure, for segment purposes. But it's just par for the course at this point. You know what I'm saying? So the disrespect seems intentional. They scoff at things that that aren't easy to gain clicks and clickbait and engagement. So it just is what it is. We don't play that engagement clickbait game, so they don't pander to us.
Yeah. I mean, there's stupid tweets, of course, from the usual suspects. I mean, there's constantly backs and forth, and I will, we got to say, like, Kiso I think, tried to call us out a couple of weeks ago for like, hey, why aren't you guys talking positively about the season? I'm like, are you not? Like, we are. Like, if you miss us that much, just say
Please,
so. Like, Duck fans, like,
yeah. And yeah, that wasn't just a stupid tweet. That was a stupid ass thread. Like everything they were saying, all the responses by those guys were just ridiculous. Especially Bud Elliott. Like his was the worst about the spring. Yeah, Tom was okay, but yeah.
Actually, I think we need to call out a kind of more of a stupid trend from a national media perspective, and it's not just specific to Washington. But I am so tired of the returning starters. I mean, yes, it's a narrative about Washington, but it's a narrative about every team across the country about returning starters and returning production. Number one, returning starters. I mean, like, yes, we don't return Eddie Ulofoshio, but we do return arguably probably our overall best linebacker from last year in Carson Bruner, and arguably our second most productive in Zoe Tup. That, and when you look at Washington as an example specifically, we have returning starters for this coaching staff. They played at another school, but they played for this coaching staff in this system. So shouts to, like, I'll call out, I'm sure, Indiana, it's getting mentioned in the national magazines or, national coverage of Indiana. I don't know how much they're counting all of the players that Curt Cignetti brought from James Madison that played for him in the system. Granted, it's a different level, but this isn't 1984 where it's returning starters and guys that were in your program and are moving up to replace your departed players. Like, this is a new era. Like, there's got to be a different way to measure talent and expected production than just, hey, they lost 21 and 22 starters from the national championship game, because it also, in our case, it ignores the fact that
Kellis Dean started some games. Like, what? Drew Fowler, Landon Hatchett. Like when people went down early in games, they literally played the whole games. Like,
and the other one that's my favorite is like, yeah, Washington's got some big questions at wide receiver and they lost. We lost 3 top 100 NFL draft choices.
Really fucking good, bro.
Maybe the reason we don't have a ton of returning production at receivers is because those guys are really fucking good.
People don't mention wide receivers when they're talking about wins and losses with Penn State. They almost go, well, I mean, I guess they just probably don't need receivers. They'll just lean on the run, but it's dismissive then. But it matters so much over here. it's just such this like moving of the needle. It is what it is, bruh.
It's like Pac-12 officials have gone into the media. Inconsistency.
All right, I got another one. Because I was going to use the one from Bet Elliott, but I got another one from I don't know if you guys know him. You should. If you don't, but Go Ducks or Geox or however you spell it. But I know how to say the word, but G-A-U-X Ducks. Yeah, I know it's Go. But anyways, he says Bo Nix is playing football and Michael Penix is on the bench. What's new? And I know this dude's a troll. I know him because I've been in some group chats with him, but he's still an idiot, and he's always posting stupid shit like this, trying to clickbait. And like, what do you mean? I don't get what he means by what's new though, because Penix has been starting for years. But he said a few things today. That was just one of them.
Bo Nix preseason debut, 21 attempts, 125 yards. What's new?
Yeah, for real.
Taking down like a champ.
Man, I
check down.
But shouts to their best receiver in decades that got passed in camp by a 7th rounder.
All off the strength of like effort and buy-in.
That's wild.
Like you're just not a good like. You might be a good football player, but you're not a football player. So it's funny, man. I know y'all probably got a bunch more stupid tweets. I got a couple. I was like, oh shoot, I finally, but.
Didn't Ryan Snell say something super dumb like a couple days ago? I'm on my phone.
That's every day.
That's all day, every day. Like
he's not a troll. That's just how he is.
We honestly might need to disqualify Ryan from future mention on this because it would just be we'd have to do a separate segment just for Ryan.
Yeah, we just need to post his account, his Twitter account name on this in the background and leave it at that.
Ryan and @Big Game Boomer, both of them.
Yep.
Y'all see the tweet of that like the program aficionado dude where he thought he was trolling us, where he thought he was trolling Wilbur. Like Wilbur was like, the Bo Nix story isn't about Oregon doing something well; it's about Auburn failing spectacularly. And then program aficionado quoted it and said, Washington's 2023 season isn't about Kalen DeBoer doing something well; it's about Chris Peterson building something well. And he thought he was trolling, but it's like. You're right, bro. Like you thought it was a troll, bro.
Yep, I saw that.
I thought that was hilarious.
The other ones that I will call out a couple more that I just love is like it happened a few weeks ago and I didn't save it, but like, oh wait, people asking like, because we're excited about recruiting now. Everybody's like, oh, does recruiting matter again? And I'm like, it always mattered, but coaching and development also matter. That was our whole stinking point. Yep. And anybody that is thinking that Washington is going to be TCU Part 2, either this year or going forward, again, I said this on our last episode, but I did it hurt to lose Andrew Marsh to Michigan. That, that's, we'll just see about that one, because one offense is definitely a little more proven in terms of receiving game production than the other, but Jedd Fisch is putting together a class comparable to Chris Peterson's best classes, and he's doing it in his first full cycle. Oh, and by the way, this is a coaching staff that took Arizona from, in their first year, 1-11 to 10 wins. So that coaching and development thing. Yeah. And the other one I love is related, and the On3 guys, or the Cover 3 idiots, mentioned it again. It's like, yeah, and he's going to go to Florida. And I'm like, and you know what Washington gets if Jedd Fisch goes to Florida? Number one, Washington gets, if Jedd Fisch gets the Florida job, it means that we will have had probably a fairly successful and winning season, because they're not going to hire him if he goes 5-7. And number two, the University of Washington gets $10 million. And I will reiterate, as I've said in group chats, Washington's last 3 external hires: Chris Peterson, Kalen DeBoer, Jedd Fisch. Clearly a program and a department not serious about football.
I was saying,
Hood, you're muted.
I was just saying, like,
you got your
are we
mute
tripping?
On.
Are we tripping for seeing it? Like, I ain't got no problem. I ain't got no problem with our track record of hiring people. So, don't they have to pay $20 million? Don't they have to pay $20 million to fire Billy Napier?
Todd Turner's not in charge anymore.
Something like that. Like, it don't even make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to have a winning record because their schedule is
logistically make sense for him to go to Florida.
He's gone after this year.
But
there's no way.
He's at least going to be here 2-3 years to see something and then be bouncing, just because the opportunities aren't really there. If you look at the SEC openings potentially, if you look at any of the Big Ten openings potentially, there's no school that's like better than Washington that's having like some foreseeable opening. Like you look at Michigan State, like Purdue.
Right. Well, if Florida was that big a priority, he had to be looking. I mean, like, he's going to make more hay he would have made more hay in terms of getting a top tier job, staying at Arizona and riding the wave of the talent they had on the way up, than taking the Washington job.
Yep,
taking the Washington job would have been a 1 year, hey, I'm going to make 3 or 4 more million this year than I would there. Yeah, I'm not saying Jedd's here forever. I don't expect him to be.
No,
but again, even if he leaves after this season, we got $10 million to go spend on somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say 2 things like this. I mean, you can argue Sark even was a good hire, especially at the time. So that's 4.
Yeah.
But then with Jedd,
but he's not in the same. He's not in the same classes.
He's definitely
or
not.
Sark at Washington and
yeah. Unfortunately, Sark was hydrophobic, so he had a problem. But
yeah,
non-hydrophobic Sark definitely up there.
Yeah, for sure. But then going back to Jedd, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he wants to get to the NFL, be an NFL head coach. And so why would he go be here for year or 2, go to Florida and like do like a mini rebuild there for a couple years?
Massive rebuild.
Yeah, and I get that's his alma mater, but that just doesn't make sense for him.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. Because they are at best 5th or 6th in the SEC pecking order right now.
Yeah.
Washington, like, if you look at the Big Ten, and we're going to dive into this a little more of the substance of the Big Ten this year. Right now, to me, there are 2 teams that are clearly on paper markedly better than every other program in this conference. But even they have a few questions. After that, it gets really, really muddled and like, it's Ohio State and Oregon, and then a big mush in the middle of it. Could be Iowa, it could be USC, it could be Penn State, it could be Washington, it could be Rutgers, it could be, but all of those programs have question marks. Can Iowa offense? At some point, they're going to have to. And the other thing, and this is going to come out a little in my predictions, more substantively, I'm going to go on the record here with a little bit of a spicy take and say that the bigger adjustment is not the West Coast schools adjusting to the physical style of play of the Big Ten Conference, but it's the Big Ten Conference, and especially like the Big Ten West, or school, even to a certain extent, a school like Penn State, very, very talented, but that relies just on ground and pound, and can't throw the forward pass, and then never can beat a team that's actually legitimately better than them. Kind of sounds like certain other or a comparable in talent. Who does that sound like? That adjustment to 3 high-powered offensive programs.
I think Hooligan, if you just look at like
Washington,
obviously
USC and Oregon,
the timing of it isn't a direct correlation to all the hires, but everybody went out and got offensive-minded head coaches, or they fired their OC and went out and got new OCs. And to the point of, even some people that typically relied on like nepotism hires, they went out of their coaching networks to decide to like make sure their offenses were going to be better or match at least a little bit of their defensive, prowess. So you can definitely see that the majority of teams are already gearing up to score more points. Whereas I think outside of USC, there wasn't really any crazy like culture changes at any of these programs. Like Oregon, Washington, UCLA already play, this brand of football. Whether or not UCLA is good at it or not, it's one thing, but these guys already play that brand of football on top of having elite quarterback play. That's what we're bringing to the conference. We're bringing elite quarterback play, not highly ranked guys like Aller, not K McNamara. Bro, anyway, so they're going to have to really get adjusted to the high-level quarterback play.
Not relying on a significant leveling up of your offense coming from, checks notes, a Minnesota QB transfer.
And that's supposed to be a team that is for one of the upgrading their quarterback. It is an upgrade.
I mean, it is an upgrade, but you're upgrading from what? And I'll admit, in all likelihood, I'm a realist. Will Rogers is not Michael Penix. He's not. Mike Penix is a generational quarterback at the University of Washington. That doesn't mean Will Rogers can't be still pretty damn good and Jake Browning level.
If Michael Penix and Will Rogers are in the same transfer portal class, Will Rogers has more people calling his phone. Like, that's just real shit.
Because he doesn't have the injury. He missed one season to the injury as opposed to 3. And particularly an era where it's air raid, and he comes out of air raid systems, and that's
Oh my God. If you're to tell me that Will Rogers is going to be comparable to Browning, I will take that all day, every day.
And I'm not saying he even needs to be Jake Browning, because the other thing that, and what I will say, in like Jake Browning, that he's going to have, and is probably like, we'll talk about it at length, the biggest question mark on this team is the offensive line. What's easier for an offensive line to do? Run block or pass block? And what who might they be blocking for? Like a starting running back that came with this staff from their previous coaching stop, and a projected starter that lost last year due to injury.
But the running back room, you 3, 4, 5, you know what I mean? At least 3D. Whole gang of them.
Whole gang of them.
Yeah. I know you just heard me talking about that, man. I just said top 5 to 8 just to be nice, to not ruffle no feathers, you know what I mean? But
yeah,